Matt Hasselbeck is joining us in studio. I didn't even know we were going to get him live today. I mean, what
a gift.
It's like yeah, we don't get many of those. So let's start with this. It's that the Nat Hackett year, when Russell went to Denver, he was going to kind of be the savior. And I think that stuff's hard. Matt Stafford wasn't asked to save the Rams. They were good. Even Tampa and Tom, they had a lot of good players. I mean, they were an offensive machine. They were number 3 in scoring. He just had to clean them up. But Russell goes to Denver, and it's like, save us. They don't have the right coach. You know, they gave up draft capital. I watch him in Pittsburgh. I get the good deep ball. I get the optimism. I get some of the mobility. It's a pretty good team, right?
Yeah, this is a great fit. And I would say it's more similar to what he was in Seattle. Like, I don't know if it was like save us as much as it was he got there and he was like, hey, I'm here to save you. You know, I think there was like some humility that needed to happen there for him as well. But this is the perfect situation for him. I mean, you got a great defense. You have an iconic head coach who like just screams leadership. And I think Russell Wilson screams leadership also. He brings a lot of steadiness, a veteran presence, and he's got one of the best deep balls in the game. Despite the lack of mobility that he has now compared to what he once was, he's still excellent at the line of scrimmage. And that deep ball with the new receivers that he's got with Pickens and now Mike Williams, that's just a perfect fit for him.
You know, it's interesting that, you know, Russell, it may not be for everybody, but I will say this. We know because of his size, I saw it a couple times yesterday, he's not as great in the pocket. And some guys are just, when you're 5'11" and the offensive linemen are 6'8", it's hard. I mean, I'm 6'2", you're taller than me. Sometimes it is hard to see things. Is that why he's so good at the deep ball, that it has become kind of his life preserver when he struggles to see stuff?
Well, I would say this, like, height is no longer a thing. Like, when I was coming out in the draft class of 98, Peyton Manning, Ryan Leaf, you had to be 6'4" or taller, or they wouldn't even really consider you. But there's some shorter quarterbacks that play tall, and the ball jumps out of Russell Wilson's hands. Like, the ball gets up and down. And specifically on the deep ball, you know, when I was in the NFL, how we would get graded on the deep ball. It wasn't like if it was completed or all that. There was a lot that went into it. But basically, if the nose of the ball was coming down when the ball was halfway there, that was like a plus grade. If the nose of the ball was up, that was a minus grade. It really didn't even matter if the ball was completed.
So you want some altitude on it.
You need the altitude, and you need that ball turning over. Think three-point shooter with good arc on the ball. And, like, that's what you saw on the touchdown pass to Mike Williams. He had, like, great air. The receiver can find the ball. It comes down the chimney, so to speak. And that one wasn't, like, great coverage on that play. But that's an example. Even when it is great coverage, you saw Russell Wilson do this for years. You know, that's exactly what you're looking for. From a quarterback on a deep ball. And he's got that. I don't care how tall you are. It's how you throw the football.
So this is where you have a real value for our audience, and I love this. It's easy for me to just blame Eberflus, but it can't be this bad without also being Caleb. Like, now, I don't think they're scheming up as many layups as they could, but his accuracy's not been good. So when you watch this, some of it's on Caleb too, right?
I would say 90% of it is on the quarterback. Like, if I'm coaching the quarterback, and there were, 9 sacks yesterday, I'm putting at least 6 of those on the quarterback. And just like with Russell Wilson, like, we're sitting here talking about the deep ball to Mike Williams. He knows, like, that's a blitz situation. Like, Caleb, he's a young quarterback. So I'm not trying to throw stones at him because of the mistakes. I'm not surprised by the mistakes. I think just expectations are going to be higher because you do have guys like Jaden Daniels playing such good football. Bo Nix is playing good football. Drake May's even playing good football. And so I think the Boo Birds are going to be out with Caleb. But to sit there and to say that it's, you know, there aren't places to go with the ball, or there aren't ways to avoid sacks.
He's missing, like that ball to Adunze in the end zone. He missed it badly.
And listen, people are going to miss throws. The greatest quarterback in the world, Patrick Mahomes, misses guys who are open. Like, it's going to happen. But just understanding, like, the growth of a quarterback, it always starts with pass protection. Always. It's not about throwing the ball. It's really just about pass protection. That's the number one thing, and understanding how to avoid sacks, how to help your team, how to help your defense, how to help your offensive line. And, like, right now, like, one of the reasons why you don't play a quarterback early is because you don't want him to get shook. You don't want him dropping his eyes and looking at the rush. You don't want him moving around and scrambling when there's no reason to scramble. And that's the danger with a young quarterback. And I just think they got to be careful how they treat this guy, because he's got a ton of talent, but clearly the confidence is not there like it was at USC. It's just not there.
Yeah. For the record, I had 2 executives tell me before they drafted him, they said, listen, he's erratic. Both said, I think with the right coach, you can coach it out of him, but he misses. He misses some easy stuff.
Well, and I think if you just take a quick look at like sort of what Sean Payton did with Bo Nix yesterday, it was up tempo, gets the defense to chill out a little bit.
Yeah.
Caleb and the Bears were at the line of scrimmage for a long time. Just about every play, the New England Patriots have a chance to audible. They have a chance to recognize the formation and say, okay, this is the formation. Here's what we're going to do. And so, I just think tempo is a secret weapon. Like, Mike Holmgren was so good about this. Bill Walsh was so good about this. Andy Reid's really good about this. Sean Payton did a great job using the tempo, using basically the fact that what the play is on offense and the defense needs time to react, like using that as a weapon. You saw Sean McVay do it when he first got to LA. It's such a tool that people use. Some people use it well. Some people just give it away and they don't use it as a weapon. And I think it makes it a lot tougher for a young quarterback to now behind the center and kind of redirect protection, know where you're hot, all those kinds of things. It's, I think there are some things that they could do to help him.
So I was saying, Detroit's been on a heater for about 8 weeks. I think I was most impressed with them last night. To play like that, it was clear Houston doesn't get a lot of standalone games. Sunday Night Football in Houston, they got the new unis. Like, you could feel it. It felt like a playoff game. And they were, even their O-line, which is the best in the league, kind of got pushed around in the first half. Like, you could tell they just didn't match the energy of Houston, and they were just back on their heels. But to be able to go touchdown, field goal, let's get it right, let's make some plays, I thought it was really impressive.
Yeah, I'm glad you said it. I would say it felt like a playoff game to Houston. Like, Houston came out with them as the more physical team.
No question.
Detroit didn't look like they were showing up for a playoff game. Like, they looked like they were sleepwalking.
Flat-footed.
That was bad. But Houston brought it. They had the energy. They had prime time, like you mentioned. And, but I do think, just talking about Detroit, this was awesome for Detroit. It is so good that they played like this and won, because you know what they do. They go in at halftime, and I remember being in games like this. Like, I remember a wild card game. I'm with the Indianapolis Colts. Andrew Luck's the quarterback. We're down like 28 points, and we come in at halftime, and what do we say? Andrew and everybody saying the same thing, like, hey, there's no such thing as a 14-point touchdown. There's no such thing. We'll get the ball one play at a time, one drive at a time, one touchdown at a time. And we said it, like exactly how we said it. Chuck Pagano gets in there, and he's like, hey, one play at a time, all you got, 60 minutes. That's what we said pregame. Don't judge the scoreboard every play. Let's see what happens. And we win the game. And, I just think even though we played like trash, and they played terrible, Detroit did, for the first part of that game, now when they get in that situation again,
and they will,
because it's the NFL, they'll go in there and guys will say that same thing. Hey, 60 minutes, all you got, one play at a time, don't judge, that kind of conversation. No one's going to roll their eyes. Like, you saw guys, lip reading this year, like, oh man, we stink, right? Yeah. So they're not going to have that. Not in that locker room. That locker room's different. That locker room, they're like, yeah, we've been here before. We're good. Our quarterback throws 5 interceptions. We can still win. No big deal. Like, we're sticking together. When things get hard, what do? We pull apart? No, we stick together. And I would just, one other thing on 5 interceptions. To me, it was 4 interceptions and a second quarter Hail Mary.
Yeah.
But I believe, and I know this was true on teams that I was on, when your quarterback is willing to just throw a Hail Mary interception in the second quarter instead of caring too much about his passer rating and throwing it out of bounds. I just think to some people in that locker room, it's kind of like, yeah, this guy's not about himself.
Andrew Luck had that quality.
There's a lot of guys. Eli Manning had that quality. He was like the king of second quarter Hail Mary interceptions. But he was putting it on the line for the team. And there's some quarterbacks who don't do that. There's some quarterbacks that would rather run out of bounds for a 1-yard sack than throw the ball away because of their rating. And the offensive line, they don't respect it. Your teammates don't respect it. And I think Jared Goff's a guy that's continuing to earn the respect of the people around him. And like I said, I just think that's going to pay dividends later on for this team.
Go back to the final couple years. So I don't think all athletes do this, and maybe Aaron doesn't. But it's so bad now, it kind of does sour the legacy a little. Like the New York thing's a mess. It's bad. They've got players. It's blowouts. Now he got the coach fired. Whether he did or not, it's a stain. And I wonder, when you got to the end of your career, did you care about that? Or did you just like, hey, I like football, somebody's paying me? But the New York thing, I don't think anybody thought it would be this. It's a mess. I mean, Favre had juice. If you remember, he came in, they won games. And then he went to Minnesota, and you're like, Aaron doesn't look like it's old man football. It just doesn't look pretty. Do you think he would contemplate like shutting it down into the season and just saying, I don't want to get hurt?
No, I don't think so. I think he's too much of a competitor, but he probably wonders what the right thing to do. I think all athletes, when you get to be in your 40s, you wonder, like, okay, what's the right thing? How do I handle this situation? You know, what I saw yesterday, though, I just see a guy that doesn't have the mobility that he used to have.
That's right.
And that was just such a weapon. I mean, he obviously is a super talented quarterback. That was such a weapon. And basically, defensive coordinators, I think defensive players feared playing Aaron Rodgers. They feared it.
He could embarrass you.
The way that people fear going against a Kyler Murray. Like, they fear it. Like, oh, man, hey, keep this guy in the pocket. Hey, stay back. Like, he's dangerous. One play, and he can, like, turn this, game to a different game. Like, they don't fear that. And so what you see now is people are coming after him. And I when I played, I used to absolutely hate when TV commentators or people would say, like, oh, this is his fault or that's his fault. Because, like, how do you know? Like, there's really no way to know what someone's assignment is on every play. But you can't watch the New York Jets and leave saying that they are an assignment correct football team. And now, like, I don't know whose fault. I don't know. Well, maybe was that on the quarterback? Was that on the lineman? Was that on the receiver? But there's no doubt that someone is wrong. And so, like, that happens on teams, but you're trying to minimize that stuff.
You can see it on TV.
Well, yeah. I mean, listen, like, they're bringing 7, you have 6. So someone has to do something. Quarterback has to throw hard. He has to redirect the protection. The receiver has to run a shorter route. Like, something needs to happen. I'm not sure what the right answer was, but, like, someone's assignment wrong here. Like, there's no doubt about that. And then what you see Aaron doing, which, I got coached this way one time when we had new players on our team in Seattle. My quarterback coach said to me, Jim Zorn, he said to me, hey, listen, here's the coaching point for you this week. Throw it to where the receivers are, not to where you think they should be. And I was like, what kind of coaching point is that? But, like, it was very helpful to me. And when I watch the New York Jets right now, right or wrong, I feel like Aaron Rodgers is throwing the ball to where the receiver is supposed to be.
And they're not.
Instead of where they are, But, like, it's not about that. It's about finding a way to get completions and be successful. And like I told you probably last week, this looks like a team that's being punished, and their punishment is they have to continue to play. If they could just call it a season, they probably would prefer to do that. Like, hey, you know what? Let's get it next year. But that's not the reality. The reality is you got to come together. They're fighting, they're kicking, they're clawing, they're scratching, but it's been bad football lately.
So I was saying earlier, Kansas City is a very good roster. They look a little offensive light, a little. Baltimore, Detroit feel a little defensive light with Hutchinson out. I watched Philadelphia. They've got great older players, great players in their prime, and then they've got like a Jalen Carter, Mitchell, the corner from Toledo, Dean, the linebacker. I'm like, they got 3 defensive guys. They're not even in their prime, and they're ballers. Like, I look at the Philadelphia roster, when you get 3 levels of great, Hall of Fame old, right in their prime, young guys emerging as stars, I think Philadelphia is the best roster in the league. What do you see?
That's a strong statement. Everyone was booing them and, like, just saying, hey, these guys are the worst, trying to get Sirianni fired. Like, I don't get it. I think Sirianni's a great coach.
You do.
Listen, I mean, he's different. And, like, before I met him, I thought, like, who is this guy? Like, what is he doing? He's just. But when you learn more about him, know where he came from, he was a wide receiver at Mount Union. Like, he's just, like, all the stuff, like, it just, the personality fits. I think it's perfect. I think Nick Sirianni and his brashness with Jalen Hurts and his smooth, steady, like, you can't get him too high, you can't get him too low.
That's right.
He is perfect. I think it's a great match. Now, here's where I think they struggled early on. They've got new coordinators. They got Kellen Moore. They got Vic Fangio.
A lot of new stuff.
But eventually, like, Vic Fangio's tough. Like, he's going to get that defense. Shoot, he already did. That defense is legit. I think they're going to be okay. I think the weakness of this team is if they don't have A.J. Brown, and they don't have Devontae Smith, they are not the same team.
That's right.
They need those 2 guys to be who they're supposed to be.
And this is not a criticism of Jalen Hurts, because I like him. I like what they've done in the last month. They said, we're going to have you throw about 22 times. They were getting kind of loose. It was kind of like 31. And you're like, It's not a criticism. Like, I like what he is now.
It's a little bit of Kellen Moore, though, right? Like, Kellen's a pass-happy guy. Think about where he came from. I remember this kid. I was playing for the Seahawks. He was a high school quarterback in Prosser, Washington. He'd score like 63 points a game, throwing it all over the field.
His
dad was his coach. Yeah, he's not like a Jim Harbaugh type guy. He's not going to, like, run it into the ground. That's not him. Boise State, it's not him. So, like, I just think, like if let me say it this way. If the tush push can't be a dominant play for the Philadelphia Eagles, this is not their year. It needs to be a part of it. They need to be a team that when the rest of the league has to get 10 yards for a first down, they got to get like 8.5 because the tush push is automatic. If that's not a part of their team and not part of their identity, if it's not part of what they're doing, because I believe this is a Saquon team now. It's a Jalen Hurts running the ball and throwing the ball team right now. They just need to be a physical team. If they're not the most physical team, I don't think it's the best thing for them.
Hi, everybody. It's me, Uncle Colin. Subscribe here to get the latest from the herd, including exclusive behind-the-scenes videos and more, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thanks again for making us part of your day.